Hey guys, how are you doing? It's been a minute since I've come your way. Um, a whole lot has been going on, and I've not really been very stable online. I've been in transit. I didn't expect it to be this month or right now, especially with the challenge going on. But thank God for kindness, who has been so gracious to stand in for me while my network has been very terrible in some of the places that I found myself in this season. So, can we celebrate kindness in the chat? A big thank you and God bless you, kindness. We love you and we truly, truly honor all of your sacrifices to ensure that um, you're constantly posting the video links and helping to run the sessions in my absence. So I'm very, very grateful, and I believe that we all are. All right, so we're back again today. We've gone through several different subjects, heart posture, journey to belonging. Some of the series were supposed to be one sessions, and then they ended up becoming two. This one, I believe, is going to end up becoming two sessions. So do bear with me, all right, so that as we record, you would be able to enjoy all of it really. Now, responsibility is very important when it comes to the secret place, and we must actually fully understand our role, and we must play our roles properly. Understand your roles and play your roles properly. If I don't know what role that I have, I will not be able to adequately play my role. In the place of relationship with God and intimacy with God, we must understand who the owner is and who the steward is. You don't own God, He owns you. And the things that He has given you, He has not given you to own, but to steward. And the reason why this is important in intimacy is for us to now begin to realize that we have been positioned strategically by God in certain positions that we cannot avoid, we cannot run away from, all right, because He is entrusting us with the role of stewardship. Now, thinking about it, let's define it, right? Let's define it. Owners have rights, stewards have responsibilities. Owners have rights, stewards have responsibilities. Now, by the virtue of being an owner, you lead, you care, you have rights. Stewardship means that you care for on behalf of others. Now, the way that I care for the things that God has committed into my hands shows the ownership of God over me. The ownership of God over me is seen and reflected by my intimacy with Him, my surrender, my willingness to obey Him, my willingness to follow, even when it's not convenient, right? So God created everything, and then He put Adam and He said to Adam, I'm making you a steward over this. I'm making you a manager. I'm making you an administrator to act on my behalf. So Jesus says in the scriptures, but I'm not doing it because it's convenient. I have seen my father do this, and I am administrating these things on his behalf. I am administrating this role on his behalf. So in the place of intimacy, we understand fully the ownership of God. Now, the Bible tells us something in the book of Psalms 24. It says that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. In the book of Genesis, talks about how God creates everything and puts Adam in the garden to work and take care of it. So it is clear that man was created to work, and the work is stewardship of everything that God has given to him. So God owns everything. And once again, we are simply managers. So stewardship expresses our obedience regarding the administration of everything that God has placed under our control, which is all encompassing. Stewardship is the commitment of oneself and possession to God's service. So I am saying to God, you know what? I'm committing this to you. I'm handing this over to you, and recognizing that I don't have the right, I don't have the control over the property, over myself, right? So if I'm echoing, say, Deuteronomy 8:17, we might be tempted to say, my power and my strength has produced this wealth for me. But Deuteronomy 8:18 is quick to correct us to say, remember the Lord your God, for it is He that gives you the power to produce wealth. So it's not about you, it's about the power that God has given you to produce wealth. The second thing about stewardship is that it makes you responsible. Although God gives us all things richly to enjoy, nothing is really ours. Nothing belongs to us. God owns everything. At the center of this ownership and stewardship conversation is the ownership of God over everything. So we are responsible for how we treat things and what we do with things. And while we complain about our rights here on the earth, the Bible constantly asks, what are your responsibilities, right? Owners have rights, stewards have responsibilities. So we are called as God's stewards to manage that which belongs to God. So God gives you a spouse, you are steward over that spouse, you don't own the spouse. God gives you resources, you're a steward over the resources, you don't own it. God gives you a business, you're a steward over it, you don't own it. And that sense of ownership must be read in you. You just can't have it, because it gives you an entitlement of right. It's my right, it's my right, it's my right. When we come to God in secret place relationships, we must realize that it's not a matter of it's my right, it belongs to me. No, we're coming to him as people that he has handed over responsibility. Remember, yes, we belong, but at the same time, we're not just belonging and belonging away roles and all of that, but we are intentional about playing the roles that God has given to us, that God has entrusted us with, so that we're not careless, we're not lackadaisical with the very things that God has committed into our hands in this season. So we are called to manage that which belongs to God, and He has graciously entrusted us with the care, development, and enjoyment of everything that He owns as steward. So we're responsible to manage His holdings well and according to His desires and purposes. All right. Then number three is the principle of accountability. I'm so sorry if you can hear noise in the background. I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to make do with what is currently available to me. I should be back to my base in a few days, so bear with me. All right. Principle of accountability. A steward is one that manages the possession of another. We're all stewards, right? But from the parable of talents, God has entrusted authority over to the creation to us. Oh my God. Excuse me. And we're not allowed to rule over it as we see fit. We're called to exercise our dominion under God. We're not called to do whatever we want, however we want. Everything that we do is under God. So we're managing God's creation with the principles that He has established, with the principles that He has given us. So, like in the servants in the parable of the talents, we will be called to give account on how we administered everything we've been given, including our time, our money, our abilities, our information, our wisdom, our relationships, our authority. We will give account to the owner of how we managed the things that He has given us. You have to realize that you are accountable to God for everything that He has given you. So when you say you're busy, when God has given you an opportunity for intimacy, you need to give account of that busyness. What were you really doing, right? How were you really stewarding that which God has given you, that which God has committed to your hands? It's not the excuses anymore. Excuses don't matter anymore. God is now inviting us to a place of maturity. God is inviting us to a place of growth. God is inviting us to the place where we now deeply understand who He has called us to be and why He has called us to be in those positions, and own them responsibly. Own them responsibly. And then finally, the principle of reward. Colossians chapter 3 from verse 23 to 24, Paul says, Apostle Paul writes, he says, whatever you do, work at it with all of your heart as working for the Lord. Whatever you do, whatever you do, whatever you do. Romans 12 verse 2 and 1 to 2, I want you to read it in the Message translation by yourself. And I really want you to, after watching this video, go and read it in the Message translation. It talks about your sleeping, your waking up, everything that you do, you are doing it as unto the Lord, not for men, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is God you're serving. The Bible tells us that at the end we will hear, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a little thing. I will put you in charge of many things. Can I tell you something? We're praying for influence, we're praying for resources, we're praying for greater ability to reach people, sit in certain high places. If we're not faithful in the little things, if we're not able to properly steward the little things that God has given us, it's going to be very difficult for us to gain access to more. And in this season, God is really talking about ownership and stewardship because He wants to give us more. He said, is that season where God is saying, I want to release, but I'm looking for prepared vessels who will receive. I want to release. I'm looking for prepared vessels who will appropriately steward the things that I'm giving them. I don't want to give you money and lose you. I don't want to give you a thriving business and lose you. I don't want to give you influence on social media and lose you. It's not that God is not hearing your prayers. It's that He's saying, our relationship is too fickle for me to give you what you're asking for. If I give you what you're asking for, it could kill you. If I give you what you're asking for, the way that you're asking for it, I may lose you. And you are more important to God than the things that He wants to give you. Now, maybe I'm going to talk about the characteristics of a steward and a good steward in a bit, but I really want you right now to understand this because I told you it's going to be a two-part video, right? So maybe in the second part I'll talk about it if God permits. But I need you to understand that the relationship that God wants with you is not to prove a point that He knows you or prove a point that you're close to Him. Is God saying intimacy is for your protection, intimacy is for your direction, intimacy is for your guidance, it's for your preservation, right? I'm not just protecting you, I'm preserving you because I don't want what I'm building with you to end in the now. What I'm building with you has to last for generations to come. And one of the ways that it is going to last for generations to come is when you come to that place where you are preserved, your integrity, your legacy, that God is building with you is preserved. So the question becomes, would you step out of the way and let God preserve? By stepping out of the way is relinquishing the reins of ownership over your life, ownership over everything. Because if we say that we're stewards, then you have to check in with your owner. You can't just run an organization, run a business without ever checking in with the owner after the first interview. You can't just decide to run. You need to go back and check in. You need to go back and be accountable, go back and give feedback. And so God is emphasizing right now, I want relationship with you. I want to build a relationship with you. I want to have a relationship with you, a relationship that transcends your sphere of possibilities into a sphere of increased possibilities by relationship, so the question that I want you to answer in today is God really your owner? And if he is, are you a steward, right? And if you don't understand what stewardship is, just put it there. I have no idea what stewardship is. I don't know what you're talking about. Go ahead and put it in the chat. I want to see it. And then secondly, I want to find out, what are the boundaries of God's ownership in your life? Because some of us have some unspoken boundaries. Oh, God, you own my business. God, you own this. God, you own that. But this one is out of bounds to you. There's certain things that we've spoken to God and we said, this is out of bounds. I don't want you to have it. I don't want you to have it. And that's okay. It's not right, but right now, if that's where you are, that's okay. It's very important as well that we acknowledge that that's where we are, because um, I think it was Pluto or Plato who said, um, the greatest form of deceit is self deceit. To thy own self be true. If we do not speak the truth to ourselves, then we are telling a lie and we will be restricted and restrained for the rest of our life. Anyways, I guess I'll just continue this recording because it's getting very long.